Usually when we talk about diagnosing a problem, let's say a medical diagnosis, there is this fundamental expectation of precision.
Right. Like you want it to be exact.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
feels like engineering. You
Yeah.
fall off a bike, you break your arm, the x-ray shows that jagged white line right across the bone, and the doctor just points at the illuminated screen and says, there it is. That's the problem.
It's binary. I mean, it's either broken or it's not.
Right. It's clean. The problem is visible.
Hmm.
The solution is standard. And we as humans, I think we find that incredibly comforting.
Oh, absolutely.
I desperately want things to be visible and easily categorized.
But the reality of complex systems, particularly digital ones, it rarely affords us that luxury.
Right, because the moment you step into the hidden architecture that keeps, our entire digital world running, suddenly that x-ray machine is it's broken.
Yeah, you're flying blind.
We're looking at a diagnostic landscape that is entirely murky. I mean, have you ever wondered why fixing something as mind-numbingly simple as a jammed printer requires you to submit a formal ticket?
Or what actually happens behind the scenes, in the trenches of an IT department when the payroll system crashes the day before everyone gets paid.
Right, to the outside observer, it feels like absolute chaos. But the truth is, there is a profound, almost invisible order to it all.
It is the absolute definition of navigating diagnostic muddy waters. And surviving those waters, it doesn't happen by accident.
No, it doesn't.
It requires a very specific, deeply psychological, and highly structured operational playbook.
And that operational playbook is exactly what we are extracting today. So welcome to this deep dive. Today we are looking directly at you, the listener.
Yep.
Whether you are actively prepping for your CompTIA A Plus certification or you're just insanely curious about how massive global organizations manage daily cascading disasters without burning to the ground, we have something for you.
We really do.
We're pulling our source material today straight from the CompTIA A Plus framework, specifically looking at how they teach the management of support procedures.
Which I fully admit, on the surface, sounds like we're about to read a dictionary of dry administrative protocol.
It sounds a little boring, yeah.
Right. But the reality of this material is far more fascinating than the title suggests. We are literally looking at the foundational DNA of IT support.
The mission today isn't just to memorize flashcards or, learn definitions for a test. We're decoding the psychology, the intricate systems, and the communication strategies that prevent IT chaos.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I want to start with the absolute blueprint of order. In the framework we're looking at, they talk heavily about the 3 Ps.
The famous 3 Ps.
Right. Policy, process, and procedure, which is almost always referred to as an SOP or standard operating procedure. And I have to be completely honest here. When I first read this, I immediately wanted to push back.
I get that a lot, actually.
Because isn't a policy just a fancy corporate word for a rule? I mean, why on earth do we need 3 different, highly specific words for telling an employee what they're supposed to do?
It is an incredibly common reaction. It feels like bureaucratic bloat, like just middle management trying to justify their existence with extra paperwork.
Exactly.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, those distinctions are legally, operationally, and psychologically critical for an organization.
Okay, explain that.
They serve entirely different, interdependent functions. So let's break down the definitions first, because the distinction really matters.
Okay.
A policy is the what and the why. It is the high-level rule, the overarching statement of intent from the leadership of the company.
So it's broad.
Very broad. For example, a policy would state something like, employees must use secure passwords to protect company data. That is a policy.
Okay, wait, let me stop you there, because the policy doesn't actually tell me how to make a secure password.
Right.
It just tells me I have to have one. So if I just type password 123, I technically have a password, but I'm probably violating the spirit of the policy, right?
Precisely. The policy is just the destination. It doesn't give you the map to get there.
Oh.
That is where the process comes in. The process provides a big picture look at how that overarching policy will actually be implemented across the various departments.
So it's more about the flow.
Exactly. It's the workflow. It maps how things move from point A to point B. It might dictate that the HR department informs IT when a new hire starts, and then IT provisions the account.
Okay, I actually came up with an analogy for this while I was going through the notes.
Yeah.
Because I needed a way to visualize it.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
It sounds like the policy is the speed limit law passed by the government. The government says, you cannot drive faster than 65 miles per hour because we value safety. That's the what and the why.
I like where this is going.
Then the process is the layout of the highway system itself.
Right.
It's the civil engineering, how the on-ramps connect to the off-ramps, where the toll booths are, how the traffic is supposed to flow across the state.
That is a phenomenal analogy, because then you get to the procedure, the SOP. This is the how.
The granular stuff.
Very granular. These are the detailed, step-by-step actions required to actually comply with the policy and navigate the process.
So bring it back to IT.
Going back to the IT example, the SOP dictates the exact clicks, the specific keystrokes, and the precise menus a technician must navigate to reset a user's password in Active Directory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it will specify that the password must be 12 characters, include a special symbol, and force a reset every 90 days.
So to finish the analogy, the SOP is the driver's manual that tells you exactly how to insert the key, put the car in drive, and operate the steering wheel and pedals to actually navigate that highway without breaking the speed limit.
Exactly. Policy is guidance. SOP is a detailed mechanical procedure.
Okay, that makes so much more sense now.
And to add one more layer of nuance, the source material also brings up guidelines.
Guidelines.
Yeah, guidelines are recommendations for complex, variable situations where strict, rigid SOPs might not perfectly apply.
Wait, if an SOP is so great, why wouldn't it apply? Shouldn't we just have an SOP for literally everything?
You can't. The world is just too chaotic.
Fair enough.
Returning to your driving analogy, a guideline is like advising a driver on how to handle hydroplaning in a rainstorm. You cannot write a strict, universal, step-by-step rule for every single puddle of water on every single road surface.
Because there's too many variables.
Right, the variables are way too high.
Yeah.
But you can give them a guideline for the condition like steer into the skid, don't slam on the brakes.
Okay, so in IT, what's a guideline?
In IT, you might have guidelines for troubleshooting a bizarre, undocumented software bug that no one has ever seen before.
Which makes total sense, because you can't predict every single glitch. But materials give very specific examples of where you absolutely must have an ironclad SOP.
Yes, they do.
They list software installation procedures, new user onboarding, and end-user offboarding. And I really want to pause on offboarding for a second because that seems incredibly high stakes.
Offboarding is arguably where SOPs prove their ultimate worth.
Because it's inherently chaotic. Right?
Extremely chaotic.
Someone is leaving the company. Maybe they found a better job and they're happy. But maybe they were just fired. Maybe they're angry. Maybe it's Friday. At 4:30 p.m., everyone wants to go home, and HR just dropped a termination notice right on the IT desk.
Now think about the psychological reality of the IT technician sitting at that desk in that exact moment.
They're probably panicking a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When a crisis hits, or when you are dealing with a highly sensitive, emotionally charged situation like terminating an angry employee's access, the technician shouldn't be guessing.
Right.
They should never be relying on their memory to figure out what systems that person had access to. The SOP is the safety net.
So they just pull up the document and follow the checklist.
Step by step. Because if a technician misses a single step during offboarding, let's say they revoke the employee's email access, they disable their main network login.
But they forget something.
Yeah, they forget to revoke access to a third-party cloud accounting application because it wasn't on an official checklist.
Oh, man.
That former employee now has a backdoor into highly sensitive company financial data.
And they're angry.
Right. A breakdown in SOPs in that moment doesn't just cause a mild administrative headache. It leads to severe, potentially catastrophic security vulnerabilities.
So the SOP is doing the heavy lifting.
The SOP completely removes the cognitive load from the technician. You don't have to think, you just execute the steps.
It protects the company from a data breach, sure. But it also protects the technician, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
if the angry employee somehow gets back in, the technician can say, look, I followed the exact offboarding SOP provided to me.
Exactly. It's an incredibly important shield for the worker. It creates a paper trail of compliance, which is vital for both internal audits and external legal protections.
So we have this massive library of rules, these SOPs, but they're essentially static documents sitting on a server somewhere, right?
Pretty much.
How does a company actually know when one of those procedures needs to be pulled off the shelf and applied to a crisis? You can't just have technicians wandering the halls looking for broken keyboards to fix.
Right.
That requires, like, a central nervous system.
And that central nervous system is the ticketing system. It is the absolute heartbeat of IT operations and triage.
The ticketing system is essentially a central database of all support requests, right?
Yes.
It captures the details of the issue, the progress notes as people work on it, and the ultimate resolution.
Yeah, but more importantly, it provides reporting and accountability. It tells the organization exactly who handled an issue, how long it took, and when it was escalated.
And it connects back to the SOPs.
Crucially, yes, it links directly back to those SOPs and knowledge bases we just talked about.
According to the framework, and this is important for the exam, you need to know that documentation in a ticketing system helps with continuity between technicians and helps during audits.
Right.
There's a specific, highly practical scenario mentioned. It says a technician is replacing hardware and needs the previous work order. Where do they look?
The ticketing system.
The answer is the ticketing system. It's the historical memory of the entire IT infrastructure.
It's the brain.
But here's where the source material really tripped me up. They talk about the categorization of these tickets. They divide them into requests, incidents, and problems.
Yes, the big three.
Now, I have to challenge this. Aren't an incident and a problem the exact same thing?
Yeah.
I mean, if my computer bursts into flames, that is an incident and is also a massive problem for me.
What's fascinating here is how IT architecture, legally and operationally, separates the immediate reality of a failure from the underlying cause of the failure. In everyday conversational English, sure, they are synonyms. They mean the same thing. But in an IT ticketing system, this vital distinction dictates exactly how thousands of dollars of resources are deployed.
Okay, let's look at the definitions then.
A request is routine service. Someone needs a new account created, or they need a second monitor for their desk. Nothing is broken. They just require a service.
Okay, that one is easy. No fire, just paperwork.
Right. An incident, however, is an unexpected error or a service disruption. It is the symptom.
The symptom. Got it.
For example, a single user calls the help desk and says, "I just opened my spreadsheet, my screen went blue, and my computer crashed." That is an incident.
So what's the goal there?
The goal of incident management is simply to fix their specific computer to get them working again as fast as possible.
Treat the symptom.
Exactly. But a problem with a capital P in IT terms is the root cause behind recurring incidents. It is the disease. If 50 different users call in over the course of a single hour, all reporting that their screens went blue when they opened a spreadsheet, well, those are 50 individual incidents, but they point to one underlying problem.
Like what?
Perhaps a corrupted software update was pushed out to the whole company's accounting software last night?
So the incident is treating the fever, but the problem is curing the infection.
That is a perfect way to look at it. You resolve incidents to get the user back to work quickly. Maybe you just roll back their individual machines so they can finish their day.
Right.
You investigate problems to ensure the incidents stop happening altogether across the entire network. And this ties deeply into the strategy the source recommends.
Which is?
Keep the categories incredibly simple for the end users.
Right, because you don't want a panicked user staring at a drop-down menu of 40 technical terms when their presentation is frozen.
Exactly. When a user submits a ticket, they shouldn't have to play detective and decide if they are experiencing an incident or a problem. They shouldn't have to diagnose the network.
They just want it fixed.
They just click a button that says, "I need help." But on the back end, away from the user's view, the technicians use highly detailed subcategories to track these patterns.
That makes total sense. It prevents user overwhelm while maintaining the analytical rigor required for the IT department to actually spot that overarching problem.
Exactly.
But okay, once that ticket is in the system, how on earth do they decide who to help first? Because I imagine from the user's perspective, everyone thinks their frozen presentation is the most important crisis in the history of the company.
They absolutely do. Human nature dictates that our immediate inconvenience is the center of the universe.
Yep.
And that is exactly why IT relies on the priority formula. It completely removes human emotion from the equation.
Okay, what's the formula?
The formula is severity plus urgency equals priority.
Severity plus urgency equals priority. Okay, let's unpack those two variables. What is the actual difference?
Severity measures the objective impact of the issue on the business itself. It usually ranges from low to critical.
So business impact.
Right. Does this issue affect one single intern's ability to print a rough draft? Or does it stop the entire manufacturing line from operating? It's a measure of scope and financial impact.
And urgency.
Urgency, on the other hand, measures how quickly the issue must be addressed based on time constraints. So, severity is about how much it hurts the business, and urgency is about how fast that hurt becomes catastrophic.
The sources give a fantastic high-stakes scenario to illustrate this. The scenario is, The payroll system is down before payday.
Let's apply the formula to that scenario. What is the severity?
I mean, it's got to be critical.
It is critical because the business impact of a company failing to pay its employees is massive. You have legal ramifications, severe financial penalties, and a complete collapse of company morale.
And what is the urgency?
It is high because payday is imminent. It's happening tomorrow. You cannot wait until next week to fix it.
Right.
So a critical severity plus a high urgency equals a critical priority. That ticket must be escalated immediately. You drop everything else you are doing.
Right. But let me challenge that with a slight variation, just to test the logic.
Go for it.
What if the payroll system goes down the day after everyone just got paid? The severity is technically still critical, right? It's a vital financial system.
Yes, the severity remains the same.
But the urgency drops way down because you have 2 full weeks to fix it before the next payroll cycle.
Exactly. You've nailed the nuance. The priority shifts entirely based on that temporal context. A massive system outage might only be a medium priority if it happens during a scheduled maintenance window when no one needs it.
That is fascinating.
The workflow of a ticket reflects this mathematical reality. A user contacts support, a ticket is created and assigned to an agent. The user describes the issue.
And then the agent categorizes it.
Right, assigning that specific severity and urgency. And then they either troubleshoot it right there or they escalate it. If they find a solution, the ticket is closed, creating that vital historical record we mentioned earlier.
Okay, so the ticket is categorized. It has a priority. But we run into a physical limitation here. The person answering the phone, looking at this critical ticket, might not actually know how to fix a collapsing database.
Very likely they won't.
Not every ticket can be solved by the first person who picks up the phone. Where does the ticket go? How does the system know when to call in the big guns?
That brings us to the structural backbone of IT efficiency, the escalation tiers. Most organizations use a model of tiers 0 through 3.
I want to walk through these because as I was reading this, it clicked for me. This sounds exactly like a hospital emergency room.
Oh, walk me through that comparison. I like that.
Okay, so tier 0 is self-service. In the IT world, this is the user solving the problem themselves using a knowledge base, FAQs, or help bots. No human IT staff is involved at all.
Okay.
In my medical analogy, tier 0 is waking up with a slight headache, taking an aspirin from your own medicine cabinet, and drinking a glass of water. You didn't bother a doctor. You handled it yourself with available resources.
A perfect equivalent.
Then we have tier 1, which is basic support, the initial diagnosis. These are your frontline agents handling common requests and known issues, password resets, basic connectivity checks.
Right.
In the hospital, this is walking into the ER and seeing the triage nurse. They take your vitals, they ask what's wrong, and if you just have a minor cut, they put a bandage on it and send you home.
What's fascinating here is that the underlying logic of both the hospital and the IT department is identical. Resource preservation. You don't want your most expensive, highly trained developers, your tier 3 engineers spending their day resetting passwords or telling people to turn their monitors on.
That would be a huge waste of money.
That would be exactly like having a specialized, board-certified neurosurgeon taking blood pressure readings in the waiting room. It is a complete and utter waste of highly specialized, incredibly expensive resources.
So it's about filtering.
It's an efficiency matrix. You filter out the noise at the lowest possible tier.
So if the tier 1 triage nurse realizes the cut is actually a deep laceration that needs stitches, they escalate it to tier 2.
Correct. Tier 2 is advanced support. These are specialist agents, senior technicians, or sometimes third-party vendor support.
So they have more tools.
They resolve complex or escalated issues that go beyond the basic scripts provided to tier 1. They have deeper access to the systems and deeper technical knowledge.
And if they get stuck?
If tier 2 hits a wall, you escalate to tier 3. This tier involves the actual software developers, network engineers, or senior management. They handle critical, high-impact issues.
Neurosurgeons.
Exactly. These are the people who can write new code, redesign the network architecture, or make structural financial decisions for the company.
And every single stage of passing this buck, the ticket management system ensures ownership and tracking. A ticket is never just floating in the void. Some specific human being always owns it. Let's do a quick simulation, just like the source material suggests for exam prep, to see how this latter works in real time. Imagine you are a tier 1 agent staring at this ticket. User states the entire accounting department cannot access the main database and quarterly tax filings are due in 3 hours.
A classic blood pressure spiking, high-stress scenario.
Yep.
First, we categorize it. Is it a request, incident, or problem? It's an incident, but almost certainly points to a larger problem if a whole department is down.
What about severity?
Critical. It's a whole department, and it involves legal and financial compliance with the government.
Urgency.
High. Taxes are due in 3 hours.
Priority.
Critical.
Now, what tier handles this?
Well, Tier 1 takes the call, right? But they obviously can't fix a database outage affecting a whole department. They have to escalate. But do they go to Tier 2 or jump straight to Tier 3? And that highlights the incredible danger of escalation management. If a Tier 1 agent holds onto the ticket too long, trying to be a hero, Googling error codes and asking the user to reboot their machine 5 times, they waste precious, irreplaceable time.
Because the clock is ticking.
They risk violating SLAs, which we'll get to in a moment. But on the flip side, if they panic and escalate too quickly without gathering basic diagnostic information, they waste the time of the Tier 3 engineers.
So what should they do?
A good Tier 1 agent will verify it's not just a simple localized network drop. Maybe the accounting department's router just lost power. They'll document everything clearly and then immediately escalate to Tier 2 or Tier 3, depending on the company's specific SOP for database outages.
But here's the catch. Passing a highly complex critical problem up a chain of command sounds like a recipe for a massive game of corporate telephone.
Oh, it absolutely can be.
If the frontline Tier 1 nurse doesn't perfectly translate the issue, that senior Tier 3 surgeon is walking into the operating room completely blind. How exactly does IT prevent that data loss in transit?
They prevent it through the strict art of the write-up. Good documentation.
Okay. The framework outlines 5 specific characteristics of good documentation. They call them the 5 C's. It must be clear, concise, consistent, complete, and accessible.
The 5 C's, yes.
Let's break those down because they sound obvious, but I imagine they are incredibly hard to execute in the middle of a crisis.
They are very hard to execute when alarms are ringing. Let's start with clear. This means avoiding technical jargon when possible and using simple, plain language that anyone from another technician to an auditor can follow.
Then concise. This means including only the necessary information without extra, unnecessary narrative details, using as few words as possible.
Consistent means the documentation strictly follows company standards, approved formats, and naming conventions.
Got it.
Complete means it captures the full forensic picture, the initial problem, the exact steps taken to troubleshoot, and the final resolution.
And accessible.
Accessible means it isn't just written on a sticky note on someone's desk. It is stored in the proper ticketing system or knowledge base where it's easy to find, search, and use.
There is a massive exam tip highlighted in the sources here. They say, when asked which practice improves documentation, the best answer is usually use clear, concise language in ticket notes.
Always remember that one.
But I have to push back on this because there seems to be a real inherent tension between being complete and being concise. How does an IT tech write just enough to be useful without writing a novel?
It is a delicate art form, and it's really what separates a good tech from a great one. Being complete doesn't mean transcribing every single word the panic user said on the phone.
Right.
It means capturing every relevant variable, what specific device, what exact operating system version, what was the exact alphanumeric error code, what 3 troubleshooting steps have already been tried.
So just the data.
Just the data. Being concise means stripping out the emotion, the panic, and the irrelevant narrative. You don't write, Susan in accounting was very upset because she was drinking coffee and her cat jumped on her desk and knocked the mug over, and now the M key sticks and she can't type her passwords.
Right. The next technician doesn't care about the cat.
Exactly. You write, hardware damage to keyboard, M key unresponsive due to liquid spill, cleaned contacts, issue persists, replacement requested. That is clear, concise, and complete. It isolates the variables.
And it has to be accessible. The sources emphasize knowledge bases, or KBs. These are the centralized libraries of articles, FAQs, and troubleshooting guides.
Very important.
They specifically mention tying inventory records to these KBs, like using asset notes in your system to link directly to external knowledge base articles or vendor forums. They even give the example of Microsoft Windows updates having specific KB numbers so you can look them up exactly and see what broke.
That standardized, highly structured communication is vital. Think about it like how computer devices rely on common network protocols to talk to each other. Without TCP/IP, the internet just doesn't work.
Right.
Well, humans in an IT ecosystem need standardized ways of communicating too, because the stakes of poor communication aren't just a delayed fix. They are tied directly to financial penalties in the form of SLAs. Service level agreements.
Okay, let's unpack SLAs, because here's where it gets incredibly intense.
It does.
An SLA is a binding contract defining expected service levels. You can have internal SLAs, like the internal IT team, promising the marketing department a 24-hour turnaround for non-urgent requests, or external SLAs, like your internet service provider, legally guaranteeing 100 megabits per second throughput to your building.
Yes.
And they measure system uptime using something called the rule of nines.
Yes, availability is measured in nines. It represents the percentage of time a system is mathematically guaranteed to be operational over the course of a year.
When I actually read the math on this in the source material, my jaw dropped. If a system has a 99.9% uptime guarantee, I mean, to a normal person, 99.9% sounds practically perfect, right?
Right, it sounds amazing.
If you get a 99.9% on a test, that's an A-plus place. But in the IT world, that missing 0.1% equates to roughly 8.7 hours of downtime per year. That is almost a full 9-to-5 workday of your system being completely, totally dead.
And you have to contextualize what that actually means. If that system is a massive e-commerce platform, let's say Amazon on Black Friday, or a high-frequency trading server on a stock exchange generating thousands of dollars a minute, 8.7 hours of downtime isn't just an inconvenience.
It's devastating.
It is catastrophic. It could mean millions of dollars in lost revenue and irreversible brand damage. That is why enterprise systems push for 99.99% uptime, what they call 4 nines.
Which equates to roughly 52 minutes of downtime per year.
And the truly critical systems push for 5 nines, 99.999% uptime. That allows for roughly 5 minutes of downtime a year.
How is that even physically possible? How do you guarantee a server only goes down for 5 minutes in 365 days? Hardware fails.
It requires an incredibly complex, highly expensive, redundant architecture. You don't just have one server. You have clusters of servers spread across geographically diverse data centers.
Well, they back each other up.
Exactly. If a power grid fails in California, the system automatically fails over to a data center in Texas in milliseconds. You have redundant power supplies, redundant internet connections, and automated load balancers.
Wow.
But more importantly for our discussion today, it requires flawless procedural execution.
Because if a system goes down and you have 5 minutes to fix it before you breach the contract, what actually happens?
SLAs outline specific complaint processes and, crucially, massive financial penalties. If an ISP drops below their guaranteed throughput or their uptime drops below that 99.99% threshold, they literally owe the client money.
Real money.
Sometimes millions of dollars.
Yeah.
If an internal IT team consistently breaches their SLA, managers are fired or the entire department is outsourced.
Let me tie this back to what we were just talking about. If a Tier 1 agent answers the phone, takes bad notes, and writes a sloppy ticket that isn't concise or complete,
Yep.
and that ticket bounces around the tiers for 2 days because no one understands what the actual issue is, you're telling me that single agent's poor documentation could directly cause a $1 million SLA breach?
Absolutely. The clock starts the moment the incident occurs. If you burn 50 minutes of your allowed downtime just trying to decipher what the Tier 1 agent meant by "the screen looks weird," you have failed.
That is terrifying.
Clear communication is not just about having good grammar. It is about audit readiness, operational speed, and massive financial liability.
So we're talking about perfect data transfer from machine to machine or from technician to technician.
Yeah.
But the wild card in all of this isn't the server. It's the person staring at the server.
The human element.
Right. How on earth do you gather perfect, concise variables from a human being who is currently having a panic attack because their presentation just vanished? Writing clear notes is one thing, but dealing with the actual human on the other end of the phone.
Who's probably frantic.
Exactly. Who doesn't care about your SLAs or your knowledge bases? They just know their life is ruined right now. That requires a completely different skill set.
It does. And this is arguably the most challenging and often overlooked part of IT support. Fixing machines is a logical binary process. Fixing a panicked human is a deeply psychological process.
So what does the framework say?
The framework outlines core communication techniques. You must be respectful, using a polite tone and active listening. You must be clear and concise in your speech.
And consistent.
Right, maintaining the same professional tone whether you are on an email, on the phone, or standing over their desk. And you must maintain confidentiality, protecting their user data.
But the section that really stands out to me is the specific guidance on dealing with difficult or angry customers. The advice printed in the material is, stay calm and professional. Don't take it personally, even if directed at you. Acknowledge their concerns. Avoid negative or judgmental responses.
Standard advice, but hard to follow.
Exactly. I have to challenge this because it is incredibly easy to read "don't take it personally" on a sterile PowerPoint slide.
Huh.
But when a senior executive is screaming at you through the phone because they lost a file, and they're actively calling you incompetent, how do you actually neurologically execute that detachment in the moment?
You have to utilize a specific cognitive reframing technique, and you have to understand the biology of what is happening to that user. The phrase the industry uses is, view the situation as difficult, not the customer.
You have to separate the emotion from the individual.
Exactly.
But they are the ones yelling.
Yes, but you have to understand why they are yelling. When a user experiences a catastrophic data loss, they experience what psychologists call an amygdala hijack.
Amygdala hijack.
Yes. The amygdala is the part of the brain that processes fear and threat. From an evolutionary standpoint, their brain is reacting to a frozen computer screen the exact same way it would react to a predator in the woods.
So they're literally in fight or flight.
They're in fight or flight mode. They are terrified of the consequences of the technical failure. They might lose their job. They might lose a huge client. They are projecting that intense terror as anger, and you just happen to be the target standing in front of them.
So if you recognize that they're basically having a biological fear response, it's easier to detach.
Exactly. Once you understand that mechanical reality, it's easier not to take it personally. You realize they aren't angry at you, the technician. They're angry at their own helplessness.
That reframes it completely.
When you understand that, you don't waste time defending your ego. You attack the problem instead of attacking the person.
And the primary weapon for calming that biological response, according to the text, is active listening. The sources define this as focusing fully, avoiding interrupting at all costs, and showing attentiveness.
Very important.
If you're in person, it's eye contact and nodding. If you're on the phone, it's using verbal cues like, and I understand. And the key technique is restating or summarizing their points, saying, so the issue is, and taking notes. How does that actually help?
Active listening mechanically lowers a person's blood pressure. When someone is in that amygdala hijack, they feel completely out of control.
Right.
By listening to them without interrupting and then calmly summarizing exactly what they just said, you validate their experience. You signal to their panicked brain, I am heard, I am understood, and help has arrived.
Like a pressure release valve.
Exactly. It diffuses the frustration so their prefrontal cortex can turn back on, allowing you to actually begin logical troubleshooting.
The questioning strategy they teach is really interesting in this context, too. The framework says you start broad with open-ended questions, like can you describe what happens when you try to print? You invite detail.
Yes.
Then you narrow down with closed questions to confirm specific details. Is the printer connected via a USB cable or Wi-Fi?
Let's look at why that specific order matters neurologically. If you start with a closed question, is it USB or Wi-Fi? And the users are panicked, they might say, I don't know, just fix it. I'm not a computer person.
You just made them feel stupid.
Exactly. You've inadvertently backed them into a corner that highlights their own technical ignorance, which only spikes their fear and anger further.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
But an open-ended question, tell me exactly what you see on the screen, allows them to vent. They get to tell their story. They get to empty that emotional reservoir.
And once they're empty.
Once they've done that, they are much more calm and receptive to the closed diagnostic questions you need to answer for your ticket.
I want to role play this real quick to hear the difference because I think it's vital. Let's do the bad version first. I'll be the panicked, angry user.
Okay, lay it on me.
My entire presentation is gone. I just hit save and the whole screen went black. I present to the board of directors in 10 minutes. You guys always do this to me.
Bad response. Sir, did you verify the localized power supply? Have you tried a hard reboot? I can't help you if you're yelling at me. It's probably just a localized network drop.
Okay, as the user, I am now infinitely more angry. You interrupted me, you used technical jargon. I don't understand what is a localized network drop, and you're implying the problem is my fault for not checking the power supply. My amygdala is fully hijacked.
It's a disaster.
Okay, now let's do the good version. My entire presentation's gone. I just hit save and the whole screen went black. I present to the board of directors in 10 minutes.
Good response. I hear you, and I understand how critical this board presentation is for you. Let's get this sorted out right away so you can present. Just to make sure I have all the exact details, you were saving the file and then the monitor went entirely black. Is that correct?
I instantly feel calmer. You didn't interrupt. You explicitly acknowledged my timeline and the importance of my board meeting, which tells me you care. You didn't judge me, And you summarize the technical symptom perfectly without making me feel stupid.
It completely changes the dynamic.
That is a massive, massive difference in communication.
And operationally, by de-escalating the user, the Tier 1 agent actively prevents a ticket from needlessly becoming a Tier 2 escalation.
Wait, how does it prevent an escalation?
Think about it. An angry, panicked user will demand to speak to a manager, tying up senior resources. A calm, validated user will follow your troubleshooting steps and let you fix the problem right there at Tier 1.
So it saves money.
Yes. Good communication isn't just about being nice. It is a measurable efficiency multiplier for the entire IT department.
But there is a limit. The sources are very clear on this. You tolerate frustration, but you do not tolerate abuse. The direct quote from the material is, "The better the employee, the more stoic they are, but abuse is the line."
That is a crucial distinction.
You are instructed to escalate or hang up only if receiving abusive treatment.
Yes, and that boundary is critical. There is a profound difference between a user expressing intense, loud frustration about a difficult situation and a user resorting to personal attacks, racial slurs, profanity, or threats of violence.
That's where you draw the line.
Organizations have a legal and moral duty of care to their IT staff. When that line of abuse is crossed, the SOP dictates that the agent disengages. You state calmly, "I cannot continue this conversation if you use that language," and you escalate the incident immediately to management or HR. You do not absorb abuse.
So we can calm them down if the machine breaks. But what happens when the human is the one breaking the machine? Either intentionally or negligently.
That opens up a whole different area.
Right. That brings us to our final area of the framework, boundaries and learning. We're looking at AUPs, confidentiality, and after-action reports. Let's start with the boundary. What is an AUP?
The AUP is the acceptable use policy. It is the foundational, legally binding document that governs the proper use of all organizational services, hardware, and network resources.
What does it actually do?
It protects the organization from massive security and legal risks. It explicitly prohibits misuse, unauthorized software installations, intrusion attempts, and it often strictly restricts non-work-related internet use.
Basically, it's the do not torrent pirated movies on the company Wi-Fi rule.
Exactly.
And the sources point out that this regulatory compliance is often reinforced daily with login splash screens. Every single time you log into your workstation, you have to click a button that says, "I accept," on a screen, reminding you of the AUP requirements.
It creates a daily, legally binding psychological boundary.
But what really caught my eye in this section was the strict rules on confidentiality. The framework says you have to maintain absolute discretion and keep all support incidents private. You must never reference incidents publicly.
This is one of the most critical security postures a company can take.
The exam materials specifically warn against social media posts. And we all know that feeling, right? You have a crazy, stressful day at work, a user does something monumentally silly, and you just want to go online and complain about it to your friends.
It's tempting.
But you're saying in IT, even tweeting a vague, "You won't believe what a user just broke today," is a fireable offense. Why is that such a big deal if you don't name the company?
Because it raises an incredibly important call-on about operational security, or OPSEC. In the digital age, there is no such thing as a truly anonymized tweet if it comes from an employee's personal account.
How so?
Let's walk through a scenario. Let's say an IT tech tweets, "A user just clicked a phishing link and locked out the whole accounting server. My day is ruined." They didn't name the company, and they didn't name the user.
Sounds harmless enough.
But hackers heavily monitor social media using open source intelligence, or OSINT. If a threat actor can look at that tech's LinkedIn profile and see where they work, they now have confirmed real-time intelligence.
Oh, wow.
They now know that a phishing campaign against that specific company was successful today. They know that the company's internal security training is failing, and they know that the accounting server is currently vulnerable or offline.
You just handed the hackers the exact blueprint of your company's weakness just because you wanted to get a few likes on Twitter.
Exactly. It completely violates the AUP, it damages the company's reputation, and it exposes critical vulnerabilities. Support incidents are strictly, universally confidential.
So if you can't vent on Twitter, where does all that energy and, more importantly, all that institutional knowledge go after a major incident?
It has to go somewhere productive.
That leads us to the final piece of the puzzle. Lessons learned, or what the framework calls the AAR, the after-action report.
The after-action report is how an organization survives and evolves. After a critical or major incident is resolved, The fire is completely out, the servers are back online, the users are working. You don't just close the ticket and move on.
What do you do?
You develop a highly in-depth report. You document what exactly the issue was, what steps were taken to fix it, and what the final resolution was. And crucially, the incident reporting process solicits input from everyone involved: the technicians, the managers, the stakeholders, and the users.
I want to focus on that last group. Why is it so vital to ask the users for input on the AAR? They aren't technical. They don't know how the server works. Why not just ask the IT managers what went wrong?
Because the user's experience often reveals the fundamental flaw in the process or the policy, which a technical manager might completely miss.
Give me an example.
Let's go back to the phishing link example. If a user clicked a malicious link, the IT manager might look at the logs and say, the email filter system failed to catch the malware. We need to upgrade the filter. A purely technical fix.
Right.
But if you ask the user what happened, they might say, well, the phishing email looked exactly like our internal HR portal, and it asked me to update my benefits. I was never trained on how to spot a fake URL.
That insight is pure gold.
Exactly. It tells you that the technological fix isn't enough. You need a behavioral fix. You need better training SOPs. You need to update the AUP. You can't patch human error with a software update. You patch it with better procedures.
Oh, that ties everything we've talked about together perfectly. The AAR takes the chaos of the incident, synthesizes the technical and human failures, and feeds it directly back into creating or revising an SOP. It completes the entire life cycle of IT support.
It really does.
You start with an SOP. An incident happens that tests that SOP. You resolve the incident using your ticketing tiers and SLAs. You write an after-action report based on what you learned, and you use that to build a better, stronger SOP.
Precisely. It is a continuous, closed loop of improvement. The new SOP is filed away in the knowledge base for future reference, ready for the next crisis. That is exactly how the invisible architecture of IT grows stronger and more resilient over time. It learns from its own failures.
So what does this all mean? We have taken a massive, incredibly detailed journey today. We started with the rigid structural blueprint of the 3PS policies, processes, procedures.
A foundation.
We moved into the central nervous system of ticketing, categorizing the chaos into requests, incidents, and problems, and using the priority formula to remove emotion from triage.
Right.
We climbed the ladder of escalation, understanding why a Tier 3 engineer shouldn't be resetting passwords. We looked at the extreme precision required for documentation, the 5 Cs, and the terrifying financial weight of SLAs and the rule of nines.
It's a lot of pressure.
We explored the deep empathy, the biological realities of the amygdala hijack, and the psychological tactics required to actively listen and de-escalate frustrated users. And finally, we looked at the protective boundaries of AUPs, the dangers of social media, and how after-action reports turn systemic failures into stronger foundations.
It is a breathtakingly comprehensive framework, and I think it proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that managing support procedures is not just about fixing machines.
Exactly. To you, the listener, whether you are staring down the barrel of the CompTIA A+ exam, or you're just trying to bring some semblance of order to your own chaotic workplace, the takeaway is brilliantly clear. Mastering these procedures is about mastering human behavior just as much as it is about fixing computers. You are managing people, you are managing expectations, and you are managing biological stress, using technology simply as the medium.
And that reality leaves us with a final, perhaps provocative thought to ponder as we close.
Let's hear it.
If automation, self-healing networks, and AI help bots eventually become sophisticated enough to flawlessly handle all Tier 0 and Tier 1 tickets, if the machines eventually become smart enough to fix the machines without us, how will human IT professionals need to evolve?
Oh, that's interesting.
Will the IT worker of the near future need to be more of a psychologist and a mediator than a coder to justify their role in Tiers 2 and 3? As the technical problems become fully automated, the emotional intelligence required to manage the humans interacting with those systems might become the true premium skill of the 21st century.
That is a fascinating, slightly terrifying question. The X-ray machine might get infinitely better at spotting the break, and it might even learn to put the cast on automatically. But you will always need a human to look the patient in the eye, calm them down, and tell them it's going to be okay.
Well said.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden, chaotic, and beautifully structured architecture of IT. Keep learning, keep questioning the systems around you, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.